Light versus Darkness Motif in the Sonny's Blues by James Baldwin. Introduction. The reading of James Baldwin's short story Sonny's Blues leaves few doubts as to the fact that one of the story's foremost motifs is light versus darkness. In its turn, this can be explained by the particulars of the author's biography as someone who was brought up in a religious family. Sublimated in Baldwin strive to provide a symbolical meaning to the story's semantic content. Apparently, the references to darkness in Sonny's Blues are meant to symbolize the essence of Sonny's drug addiction, whereas the references to light are meant to prompt readers to think of Sonny's story of reconciliation with his brother in terms of Christian redemption. Nevertheless, there is also another aspect to Baldwin's utilization of earlier mentioned motif: author's realization of the sheer unnaturalness of African Americans' low social status through 50s and 60s. By making continuous references to this particular motif, author wanted to expose the actual reason why these people often end up being underachievers. In my paper, I will aim to explore the soundness of this thesis at length. Analytical part. Baldwin's utilization of the light versus darkness motif starts at the very beginning of the story. I stared in the swinging lights of the subway car, and in my own face, trapped in the darkness which roared outside. By saying that, the narrator reflects upon his own deep-seated anxieties of someone who was born and raised in the ghetto. Apparently, even though he was able to gain social prominence as a teacher, the narrator never forgot his own humble origins. This is exactly the reason why, while watching Harlem's black boys in the midst of socializing with each other, the narrator never ceases being aware of the nature of intellectual oppression they have to deal with on a daily basis. These boys, now, were living as we'd been living then. All they really knew were two darknesses: the darkness of their lives and the darkness of the movies, which had blinded them to that other darkness. The context of this particular referral to darkness, on the part of the narrator, reveals the nature of African Americans' oppression as such that is not only concerned with these people suffering from poverty but also from the fact that American mainstream media of the time used to portray such state of affairs as perfectly natural. Hence, the symbolic sounding of narrator's following remark, in regards to Sonny Friend's physical appearance. The bright sun deadened his damp dark brown skin and it made his eyes look yellow and showed up the dirt in his kinked hair. Apparently, narrator wanted to emphasize once again that, while being exposed to the light of America's racialist mass culture, African Americans simply could not avoid being degraded. Nevertheless, given Baldwin's strong sense of religiosity, it does not come as a particular surprise that the majority of the narrator's referrals to light connote positiveness, as these referrals symbolize the process of African Americans gaining self-confidence. For example, while elaborating on how he felt when struggling with his drug addiction, Sonny states, "I feel like a man who's been trying to climb up out of some deep, real deep and funky hole and just saw the sun up there, outside." Yet, being rather a good psychologist, Baldwin was fully aware of the fact that the process of socially and racially underprivileged ghetto residents striving to make the best out of their lives could never be too easy, as the very essence of racially secluded living in the ghetto predisposes people to succumb to depression. Cab moved uptown through streets which seemed, with a rush, to darken with dark people. According to the narrator, this is exactly the reason why it often proves impossible for ghetto residents to attain social prominence through education, while trying to affiliate themselves with light. Even the brightest kids from the hood have no choice but to continue to exist in darkness, in the allegorical sense of this word. In its turn, this causes them to experience a certain cognitive dissonance. The harder they try to make the best of their lives, the more acute appear their inferiority-related anxieties. When light fills the room, the child is filled with darkness. He knows that every time this happens he's moved just a little closer to that darkness outside. Thus, there are clearly defined humanist undertones to Sonny's Blues, as the story provides readers with insight into why, despite having the potential to become society's outstanding members, many African Americans nevertheless end up descending to society's rock bottom. Conclusion. As it was implied in the introduction, in order for the readers to be able to fully understand Baldwin's story's message, they need to be aware of the significance of light versus darkness motif, deployed throughout story's entirety. The reason for this simple, the understanding of this motif's implications on the part of readers is quite indispensable within the context of gaining insight into the very root of African Americans' clearly unprivileged social status. I believe that this conclusion is fully consistent with the paper's initial thesis.